The summer of 2020 saw many Americans take to the streets to protest racial injustice in policing. This movement in the middle of a pandemic inspired all of us to take an honest look at the inequality in our own workplaces and communities. I'm Tamron Hall. This is Reshuffle. In this episode, we meet Tiffanys Story, the Atlanta-based founder and chief creative officer of London Grant, a beauty and skincare company. In the midst of the pandemic, Tiffanys saw her company leap from a production line in her kitchen sink to the shelves of Nordstrom in less than a year. She pulled this off while raising her young son and giving birth to her second. As a Black business owner and mother, she had to juggle the practical fears of the pandemic with the emotional roller coaster of the social justice movement. How did she do it? Not alone.
My name is Tiffanys Story. I'm the founder and CEO of London Grant Co., based here in Atlanta, Georgia. Before I was an entrepreneur, I loved being a consultant. It was very high-paced. I was flying back and forth from Atlanta to whatever city. It wasn't until I had my first son that dropped. I couldn't do the travel anymore. I needed to be at home. I took an extended maternity leave, and when I went back, I remember crying at my desk, not because I was away from my son, because I knew I wasn't supposed to be there. I didn't know who I was anymore. It wasn't until I left corporate that I realized how much I was masking who I was. I was putting on clothes that I felt were appropriate for this very white, male-dominated industry in tech and in consulting. I realized how much I had put my self-worth in this engine that didn't actually value me to the degree that I thought they did. I knew I needed to find my value in something else. I was taking all the assessments to figure out what I was supposed to be doing with my life. My husband looked at me one day and he was just like,
the magnitude of what was inside of her, no company that wasn't hers was going to be able to get that out. So it was just a matter of me encouraging what was already there.
The world opened up and I felt like I was on this cliff looking out at the ocean, and that was how infinite the possibilities felt for me. My oldest has special needs. He has an in-home therapist, so we had to be at home. And so I was living that life long before the pandemic of how do we figure out how to have your office with your kids at home. I felt the severity of the pandemic almost immediately. We were pregnant. Boom, it's a pandemic. And what do you do with this business where you make product in home? And I'm worried for my safety, for my kids' safety, for my husband. How do I keep my customers safe? We chose to shut down to make sure that whatever we were doing it safely. So things got really tight for us. There's never a time that I don't get emotional thinking about June of 2020. There are so many people that it's so personal for, and it's so personal because it's not my story, but it could be. It could have been my story. It could be my story. It could be my husband. It could be my son. It could be my father. It could be my brother. It made anything else feel really insignificant. And I am thankful that people are starting to pay attention to these things because they matter and always have.
Since the pandemic started, the data on the ground clearly shows that Black-owned small businesses have been disproportionately affected. An H&R Block survey of almost 3,000 small businesses found that 53% of Black business owners saw their revenue drop by half, compared to 37% of white owners. When it comes to Black entrepreneurs, it will take a concerted effort by customers, buyers, and corporations to invest in and support diversity in the marketplace.
We're headed to Citizen Supply, and we're gonna drop some product off to the store. Citizen Supply was our very first retailer. They were willing to take a chance on us and carry our products. You said that sheer was your favorite. What do you like about it? I love it because it's hydrating, but also light, and it's just like quick to dry. I now realize that I have the responsibility of working with retailers to make sure that they have inclusive representation on their shelves, because that didn't exist before. The summer of 2020 brought that to light, and people started to say, I want to be able to buy from my own community, and I have difficulty doing that. Putting that Black-owned stamp isn't something that you can just take lightly. It has to be comprehensive. Who are you employing? Do you have diversity top to bottom so that the people making decisions around your brand are representing this world that is very diverse? So it has to happen behind the scenes and in the forefront. In the summer of 2020, people were starting to ask for ways to shop Black. And London Grant started to pop up in these different lists. And then it just took off from there. We had something really beautiful happen where all of these allies started to come into our lives. I was very reluctant at first because some of that was authentic and some of that was performative. One of the most beautiful moments was when Sarah Happ reached out to me. She started her lip care company out of her kitchen, and she just understood my story. She identified with it, and she said, I would love to celebrate you for my birthday and give 100% of her profits from the day of her birthday to us. We had a PR agency reach out to us, Little Voices PR, and just saying, hey, we want to give you free PR for this period of time. We were featured in Vogue, and it gave this huge credibility to the brand that we didn't have before. So Nordstrom, they were interested in expanding their inclusive beauty segment. I had the call, and the very first thing out of her mouth was, we love it, and we need the product in 30 days. It happened that fast. We went from having to get 50 to 60 orders out to this purchase order of thousands of units. It was crazy. We had never done anything like that before. It was all happening during Christmas holiday rush. My husband played a huge role during that time. He stepped in to be our operations lead so that I could sleep from time to time.
Really, it was Tiffany. I mean, she was the champ. I'm just being a supporter and making sure that she has the resources in terms of ideas, concepts, because I think we complement each other in that way too.
I would put my son down at 9. I would start making product until about 3 in the morning.
Stop what she was doing, go nurse.
I went to bed at 4. I was up again at 9. I was getting regular customer orders out, and I was working on the Nordstrom order throughout the night. That was the cycle.
I wouldn't suggest it to anybody, but we did what we had to do, and we made it happen.
I love how bright our future is, what this past year has taught us, the encouragement that I feel from my community. And what I'm most excited about is being able to get out of that scrappy mindset. Also just so excited for my kids to be in school and for them to have this sense of normalcy in their day.
I think there's some other things that Tiffany has up her sleeve that she hasn't really rolled out yet.
It's important to never stop dreaming, to never stop coming up with these new visions, to never stop reconnecting with yourself and with your community, to say, what was the purpose behind this? Because if the pandemic taught us anything, it's that the direction that you thought you had can be just blown out, and that you can refocus.
2020 has taught us that difficult social challenges can inspire action and change. Through social media, entrepreneurs can share their story and inspire homegrown brand awareness like never before. But as businesses answer the call from customers who marched in the streets, it's up to communities online and off to demand that diversity and inclusion be the priority in how we sell, buy, and do business with one another. This is Reshuffle.